Welcome back to another episode, and tonight what I wanted to do was talk about my Resident Evil PS4 collection. Now, I mentioned Resident Evil in a previous video, showed off my recent pickups of Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2, but today what I want to do is talk about the main series itself. Now, granted, this series has started a long time ago, started on the PS1. That's where I played the original Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2. Now, Resident Evil 2 was an experience like no other. That was a very highly anticipated game on the PS1 at the time when it came out. You know, even with Resident Evil 1, that game was very difficult for me to even find because I didn't get the game right away when it came out. I had actually played, a friend of mine lent it to me. I played it, loved it. When I went to try to find a copy of myself back in the day, could not find a copy. It was very difficult to find that game. Resident Evil 2, could not wait to play Resident Evil 2 when that originally came out on the PS1. Now, of course, over time, after playing those games and beating those games, you know, my time of playing Resident Evil kind of diminished. Stopped playing those games. Never played Resident Evil 3, Nemesis. Even though I did have it, I never played it before I did want of eventually getting rid of all my PlayStation 1 games. But with the PS4, this was a chance to dive back in to a series that I loved. Now, with Resident Evil on the PS4, there's not too often where you can get a franchise with so many games in the catalog, all on one system. The PS4 is a one-stop for all Resident Evil. And this collection here that I have, I mean, you want to talk the history of Resident Evil? This is the history of Resident Evil. Now, right now, I mean, let's get right to it, guys, because this could be a long video. It's not going to be a long video, but anybody who really wants to dive into Resident Evil, you could be talking for hours and hours about this series. This series is historic. I mean, there's no doubt about it. When you talk about top franchises of all time, this is one of the biggest franchises in the history of video games. And I don't think you're going to find anybody who's going to dispute that. But the PS4, like I said, is your one-stop shop for everything Resident Evil. And like I said in my previous video, when it comes to the Sony PlayStation, to me, that is the home of the Resident Evil series. I will not play them. I mean, I guess I did play Resident Evil Revelation 1 on the Xbox Game Pass. But again, it was on the Game Pass. I wasn't going to pass up a chance to play a game that I could just download and play, you know, basically as a part of that subscription. But as far as actually owning the games, it has to be a Sony PlayStation system. Hands down. That is the home of Resident Evil, in my opinion. Now, let's start right off the bat with the double game collection. We have the Resident Evil Origins collection. Now, this has Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 1. Now, Resident Evil 0 is a good game. I'm not going to dispute that it's a good game. It is. You know, when it comes to the Resident Evil games, and we find this in another series, which we'll get another Resident Evil game that we'll talk about a little bit later on. When you have to swap between players, I'm not the biggest fan sometimes with, you know, swapping in between. Resident Evil 0 does have that situation, does have that problem that I run into sometimes. But once you get the controls going and you get the hang of it, it's really not that big of a deal. But I kind of like to just, when it's Resident Evil, you're playing as one character and it's direct. That's it. You're that character, you're not switching back and forth. But again, 0 is still a good, solid game. Now, you know, and 0 takes place, you know, why is it 0? Because it takes place before the actual Resident Evil 1 game. It's like almost like a prequel to Resident Evil 1. Now, the remake of Resident Evil 1 for the PS4 is solid. There is no doubt about it. It's as good. I mean, when you look back and you think about the PS1, you think about the old tank controls. It's so much nicer and so much smoother to play on a PS4. You know, you can't deny. Yes, there are the old school controls that you probably missed from the PS1, But guys, I don't miss playing them. I honestly don't. I like, yes, there is that nostalgia to have that, play that original style. But, with better graphics, it's so much nicer, and you appreciate the game that much more. And it's a fantastic collection, guys. These games all right now, except for like Resident Evil. When you start getting to like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, and Resident Evil 7, those games still can run you around $25 and higher. All these other ones, anywhere from $15 to $20. And that is a fantastic price when it comes to picking up a lot of these games if you don't already have them in your Resident Evil collection. And you know what? You should have them in your Resident Evil collection, because this is a top-of-the-line franchise, guys. But that is the cover. That is the back. And let's just pop it open so you guys can see what the disc looks like. Like I said, guys, I'm not going to talk too much about each game. There's been so many videos put out about these Resident Evil games, but, to me, I really wanted to do a video. I talked about when the Resident Evil 4K set came out, back when I began the channel, and I really felt like I really wanted to show the Resident Evil games that I had, because that's, they're such a big part of, a pop culture. I mean, Resident Evil is a part of pop culture now, and no doubt about it. It's, it's has cemented its place in history, whether it be, video games, movies. It is a part of nostalgia, pop, pop culture, whatever you want to call it, is a part of history. So, moving on from Resident Evil Origins collection, now we start getting to what I'm going to say is the hands down, in my opinion, guys, the best Resident Evil game that has ever, and I mean ever, been made. And that is the Resident Evil 2 Remake. This game blew my mind. This game, not only did it hit the expectations it just exceeded all expectations. This game is 10 out of 10. It is absolutely perfect. There is not a single thing wrong with this game. I've played, the Leon Kennedy part of this game, the Claire Redfield part of this game. The graphics are top notch. They look amazing. They are gorgeous in this game. It is ridiculous how good this game looks. I mean, it's almost, they're so, I've never seen a Resident Evil game look just like this. This game is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And, going from playing the original Resident Evil 2 on the PS1 to playing this, guys, honestly, truthfulness, I could never go back and play. Yes, there's a little bit of the history for the PS1 version, but this is just incredible. You could beat this game in under 10 hours. It clocks in probably, 8.5, 9 hours. You could probably get it even, quicker. But it's just so much fun. I beat it with the Leon campaign. Then beat it with the Claire campaign. This is just a fantastic game that I can't, I beat it once. I instantly started it right over with the next campaign. That's how good this game is. It is fantastic, guys. I cannot say that the opening cinematic, anybody who's played this game, the opening cinematics are just phenomenal, guys. Just absolutely phenomenal. Now, Resident Evil 3 is solid. It's a much shorter game than Resident Evil 2. The graphics are still top of the line, just like Resident Evil 2. We pick up, now this is Jill Valentine's story, basically during the same exact time frame as Claire and Leon. And this is her story of what's going on. And this is a solid game. This is a game that you could pick up, beat it in a day. If you have time to kill, just sit for like a good, I think I beat this game in like 5.5 hours. And like I said, a short game, you can do it in a day. It's just fun. If you have a lot of time, you just, get something to drink, get something to eat, just sit back, relax, and you can definitely beat this in a day. And it is fantastic. It is solid. And, this is a solid, to me, this is a solid, 9 out of 10. It really is. Because, sometimes you like those games that you can just do it in a day. I've mentioned that before. And this one is absolutely no different. It is a fantastic game. And I can't say it enough. I mean, when it comes to Resident Evil, I play these right away, guys. As soon as I get them, I'll play them. Because they are just, hands down, a great, great franchise. Now, Resident Evil 4. Now, Resident Evil 4, this is one of the highest rated and top selling games of all time. It doesn't matter, whether it be when it was on the GameCube, whether it was on, the PS2, whether, it doesn't matter what system. I mean, this game has been done over and over and over again for multiple systems. But this game, it's a reason why it does get redone for because this game is great. I'm not gonna say fantastic. It was great to me. It's a great game. Is it as good as Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3? In my opinion, no. And I'll tell you why. Because you get away from the zombies, and the zombies make Resident Evil. It's still a solid, creepy game. But, when you start getting away from the zombies, that's where you kind of lose me a little bit. But not too bad. Not too bad. It's still a solid survival horror game. Again, you're playing as Leon Kennedy. He's looking for the president's daughter who has gone missing. He winds up in this village with all these horrendous, crazy-looking monsters. The villagers have gone nuts, and they mutate into all these different things. And it's a good, solid, great game. But, again, no zombies. I gotta knock it down a little bit, a couple points, guys. But it's still a really, really solid game. And again, it's one of the reasons why it is one of the top-selling and highest-rated games of all time. And why this game has gone on every single console that comes out. I wouldn't even be, and I know looks like they are doing a possible remake, complete from the ground up, a remake of this for next gen, I guess now this gen, the new gen that's here. And, that could look good, guys. It's going to look good. Now, Resident Evil 5. This is where the hate begins. Because this is where we just go straight up action. I mean, there is some horror elements to this game, but it's an action game. It's an action game with some monsters thrown in. You have Chris Redfield now. You're playing as Chris again, and guys, is it good? It's good. It's good. It's definitely the weaker of the Resident Evil games. And as far as I'm concerned, it's definitely the weaker. It doesn't have. There's just something missing with this game. There are certain elements where you really kind of have to have a second player playing along with you. Because the AI with this game can be a little wonky at times. So, it's good. If you want to play a Resident Evil game, I wouldn't start with this one. But it's a good game. It's just definitely the weakest of the Resident Evil franchise. And it's definitely something that a lot of people don't like, and it definitely kind of put the franchise on a downward spiral at that point with this game. But this is another one of those games that has come out for multiple consoles now. But still, it's Resident Evil. It's still a good game, though. Now, Resident Evil 6. Now, I like it. Now, guys, I'm not the biggest fan of the PlayStation Greatest Hits covers. But I do like the red and how the red looks with this game. I'm not gonna lie. This is one that I did have one time when I told you guys that I was had to get rid of some of my games. I did have to part with some Resident Evil games. This was one of them. So unfortunately, getting it again, I had to go with the Greatest Hits, or the PlayStation Hits version. But still, I think the red definitely, it's good for Resident Evil. Now, Resident Evil 6. Here's my thing with Resident Evil 6, guys. Resident Evil 6, you play as Ada Wong in a story. You play as Leon in a story. You play as Chris Redfield. It's been a while. Now, guys, you have to excuse me because it's been a while since I played this game. You play as 4 different characters, basically. 4 different parts of it. 4 different campaigns, small campaigns. Now, you play. That's what you play as Leon. You play as Ada. You play as Chris, and you play as Albert Wesker's son. So, I had to think about that for a second. I wanted to say Claire, but I knew it wasn't Claire. But, again, with this game, the Ada Wong story is very very well done. It's a good, solid part campaign. But the very first story that you play is Leon's, and Leon's is traditional survival horror. You fight zombies, and it is really, really good. If the game had just stayed on that course the entire way, this would have been a solid Resident Evil game. I definitely would have got it back on track. But unfortunately, because when you get Albert Wesker's son's story, it's not the greatest. And Chris's story isn't the greatest either. But when you have Leon's and you have Ada's is good. Leon's is definitely the best. And but problem is, once you go past that first campaign, that first story, it kind of drops from there, guys. But it's still a solid game. Definitely better than Resident Evil 5. I'll definitely say that. But it's definitely, like I said, it's a good game, solid game. Now, Resident Evil 7 is where we get really, really back into what makes Resident Evil. Now, again, no zombies, but Resident Evil 7 went with a first-person view. First time it went first-person. This game will scare the living you-know-what out of you. This game, because, and I'll tell you why, guys. I played this on the PlayStation VR. You talk about, I must have been playing VR for about a good hour. When I was done playing it in VR for that hour, I was just buckets, just sweat, because that's how tense this was in VR. Anybody who has PlayStation VR and who has the demo disc that has the demo that's called The Kitchen, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anybody who played it who did not know that was Resident Evil 7 demo that was included, well, once you start playing it, you realize it is the first time playing it, and you see this possessed girl that we find out is Mia in the game. You see her go across the screen. Oh my gosh. let me tell you, I had to pause it, take the VR. It was that creepy. It is, oh my gosh, guys. It's very, very tense. Now, going back and playing this game, completing this game, I just completed it regularly, not with VR. It got to be a little bit too much with the VR. I wasn't able to handle it. Not for being scared or anything, but it was just a feeling like in my stomach that I would get, and a lot of people get that like nauseous kind of feeling with the VR. So to me, I had to just, with this game, I had to stick with just straight up, no VR, just play it regular. And this game, again, first person view, brings it back to where it all began. Shows why the Resident Evil franchise is incredible. Again, no zombies. It's a short game too. But this is a fantastic, fantastic game, guys. I can't say enough about it. Even without the zombies, the zombie element, this is still incredible. I mean, you play, this girl, her name is Mia, and she goes to stay to take care of some, like a caretaker, basically, and she goes missing. And, her husband presumes that she's dead. And all of a sudden, he gets this message that she's alive. So he goes to where she was, and he locates her, but man, oh man, there are some freaky, freaky images in this game. She is just possessed, and she is just, oh my God, guys, it's almost like The Exorcist, but playing it in a game. It's the parts of her, she is just absolutely terrifying in this game, and she will make you jump. There is, I get chills just even thinking about it. That's how good this game is. And it looks like, Resident Evil 8 coming out soon. Again, this is just, it gets it back to where, to where it has to be, guys. Resident Evil 7 was definitely a step in the right direction. For anybody even who wasn't really sure how you'd be able to really play, going from what we're so used to with Resident Evil, doing a first-person view, it's definitely solid. And, this franchise is fantastic, guys. Thumbnail, guys. We gotta do the thumbnail. Just not forget that. And, it's a franchise that I love. Someday, again, I want to talk about Uncharted eventually, because again, that's still my number one. But Resident Evil, definitely near and dear to my heart. Every time a new one comes out, I will get it and I will buy it. You know, I'll play the ever living crap out of it because I love this franchise. It is fantastic. So, guys, I just wanted to talk about, you know, the games that I have in my collection for the Resident Evil collection. It's great to have those on the PS4 and, you know, have everything in one, like I said, one-stop shop for everything Resident Evil. You know, along with that and the Resident Evil Revelations that I picked up recently. You know, the PS4, again, you can get that pretty cheap now, the Resident PlayStation 4, you know, with the PS5. And those probably are most likely, you know, backward compatible with the PS5. So this is a great time. If you know, they're cheap and you can pick them up and enjoy them all on one console. It's definitely time to do it, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe and comment if you get the chance. I'll see you guys in another video. Take care. Bye.